I think this is a great conversation to broach. This woman posted this in the advice subreddit saying, divorce when it's right for you, but hurts everyone else. I think this is an important topic to broach because obviously you know you need to leave if there's abuse of any kind or if there's cheating or whatnot. But what if the relationship just isn't working? So she says, married with two kids, 8 and 11. Classic, he's not a bad guy situation. No abuse, nothing nefarious, and our kids don't see us fighting. But I know with every cell in my body that we are not right for each other. It's death by 1,000 cuts and some pretty huge gashes. I'd been in therapy for over a year to deal with my guilt over feeling done and to try to sort out my next steps. I realized I could not continue in the marriage. I've tried so hard for so long and had nothing left to give. I told him I wanted to separate. He was devastated and said he would do anything to fix things. I didn't tell him I wanted to separate in hopes he would change. I didn't believe he would or could, but couldn't close the door when there seemed to be a glimmer of hope when he agreed to go to therapy. I never wanted to wonder what if. He joined me in therapy for a few sessions, agreed to keep going on his own to address his own stuff. And then he stopped going after a few sessions because he felt he worked it all out. He worked it all out. Nothing else, nothing else to do. I did it. Almost a year later, I know this marriage is not right for me, and I've given it my all without a sliver of doubt. I feel so alone. Feeling emotionally alone when the person is physically in your presence is supposed to be in it with you is just so sad. Staying is wearing me down in every way. I feel myself turning into a ghost of who I really am, trying to keep everything stable for the kids and not hurt my husband. This isn't what I want for myself, my kids, or my husband, who says he'd rather remain married in our current state than not be together. This certainly isn't the partnership I want my kids to aspire to, but I worry I'm going through their parents divorcing is more harmful. That last sentence was a little muddy. She worries that their parents divorcing is more harmful. People need to get out of that mindset. Staying together and you are completely unhappy is terrible, and you do not want to show your kids that a relationship should be terrible. Why do you want that? She says, anyone else who's been in a similar situation where you felt leaving was right for you, but hurt the rest of your family, how did you do it? How is everyone now? I'm not sure I can pull the trigger on leaving, but I can't imagine staying much longer either. When I first got to this post, it only had 5 comments on it, but I wanted to get to this, so I took the screenshots of the comments that were there. Eeyore the Chaotic says, I think what's best for the kids is 2 happy parents. Agreed. Don't teach them that they should settle for something that doesn't serve them because it's better for someone else. Teach them that their happiness is just as important as anyone else's. Staying for the children, like, why do you want to martyr yourself? You're completely unhappy. She starts out with, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. That right there is like, why do you want to stay if you're having a death by 1,000 cuts and gashes as well? That sounds terrible. Daydreamer says, kids witnessing an unhappy marriage is never good for them. It sets a terrible standard for them. Do you want them to accept that themselves one day in the future, or do you want them to learn a better lesson about happiness and love? As a child of divorced parents, I can tell you that my parents divorcing when I was 10 years old was the best thing they both ever did for me, especially my mom. She told me not to accept scraps. Amen. Angry Sparrow says, my parents had a miserable marriage for 35 years and only modeled misery for me. I've chosen men that treat me terribly because love looks like misery to me. I've spent 3 years in therapy so far to address all the stuff I absorbed watching 2 people stay married who should have got divorced. If you don't leave, put money into a savings account for your kids' therapy. It's the least you can do. I was in a relationship like yours for 12 years. I tried to rekindle love, affection, joy. None of it worked. He didn't want to participate. And just so you know, narcissists are the ones that don't stay in therapy. They cannot self-reflect. They leave therapy after a few sessions saying the therapist says there's nothing wrong with them. Out of curiosity, when you put out something he's done that upsets you, does he listen, take accountability, and apologize, or does he turn it around on you? She does not answer this question. Actually, I don't see any comments from her on this post. Jealous Studio says, you can't stay, but I think you need to take time to become completely clear about why. You didn't write any reasons in the post above. Maybe you have worked them out anyway, but you really should if you haven't. Embarrassed Egg says, you should go out and live alone for some time. You may have exaggerated the benefits of solo living. Everyone wants the opposite of what they have. Married are jealous of unmarried, bachelors are jealous of married, etc. You have a family and a man that loves you. What's missing? I went back later and saw that there were more comments. Cherry B says, going through this now and it's still hard. She says, I'm a 30-year-old woman, and after years of trying to repair my marriage and partnership and reconnect with my husband of 10 years, who's 50, so she says she's mid-30s, he's 50, we separated last summer. We have 2 children and our relationship wasn't terrible, but we were living as roommates for years. Dead bedroom, no true connection or communication, etc. I worked with a therapist for a number of years on my own issues and learned to identify and express my needs and emotions more clearly. My ex knew I was unhappy for a while. He wasn't happy either and struggled with depression, but the difference was he would have stayed married and remained unhappy while I realized I didn't want to. As a people pleaser, knowing that the decision to prioritize my happiness would hurt my ex and my children has been the hardest thing to get past. We tried couples therapy, and while he showed up to the sessions I booked, he never made an effort and didn't try to change anything in our real lives. Of course, I grieved the life that I thought I was building, and it still hits me at times. But the guilt over hurting them is the thing that makes me question whether I made the right decision. It's overwhelming when my kids cry and ask why we can't be a family again and beg me not to leave when we switch custody. In those moments, I step back and imagine how I'd feel if I knew my kids were going to be happy and well adjusted. And if I knew my ex would move on and be happy, maybe even find a new partner, and we could be friends and co-parent well and do joint holidays, my dream scenario. Would I still hesitate? And the answer for me is no. If I could feel sure of their happiness and limit the pain I was causing, it's easy to say divorce was the right decision for me. Obviously, I can't guarantee those outcomes, but I can do everything in my power to make sure my kids are loved and supported, and I can treat my ex with love and kindness and empathy through this process while reminding myself that his emotions and well-being are not my responsibility and my life is important too. Sorry, that wasn't the most elegant reply, but you're not alone, and if you end up divorcing, it will be okay eventually. I believe that was quite eloquent. It was real. It's what people face right now. It's a balancing act because you don't want to hurt people, but you deserve to live a life that you dream of, or at least that makes you happy. Who wants to be miserable for the rest of their lives? I'll end with Razvida. Razvida says, this sounds exactly like my scenario 2 months ago when I told my husband I wanted a divorce. I've actually been on the sub looking for a similar situation for nearly a year. I had done all the work, the therapy, and he had done nothing aside from attending a handful of sessions. I also offered separation as something to try last year, and he reacted, but the same way. 2 months after telling him I wanted a divorce, and we are doing better than we have been in years. Our divorce will be finalized in a few days, but we are now considering reconciling, and he is begging me now to do therapy. He has done some truly deep work on himself too. However, I'm being cautious and not jumping back into anything. He moved out last week and our kid is spending time at both places. Our 8-year-old is much happy and can tell that we are happier. We hope to build back to where we were, but the divorce step was critical. He even admits that it woke him up about how bad our marriage had become. So that's kind of an interesting situation. Now they're thinking about reconciling. Anyways, I thought this was interesting, but I do want to hear from you. What do you think? Like, comment, and share. This man says, my almost aborted baby was born, and now I might be a single dad. The truth is, he is now a single dad. He made this woman have a baby, and she had the baby because she might be in one of those forced birther states. She had the baby, she gave him the baby, and she walked away. He posted this in the pro-life subreddit. Now, I will acknowledge upfront that I recognize that any of these Reddits could be fake. I get that. But I do understand that women get between a rock and a hard place where it comes to pregnancies, especially if they're living in these forced birther states where the man can call, threaten a woman, where they could do all of these coercive actions, where there are fines and everything. This type of thing happens. That's the reason why I'm going to do this post. So let's get into it. He says, this is a freshly made throwaway account as I have friends on my actual account. I, 26-year-old man, recently had a baby with my girlfriend, Rebecca, fake name. She's 22. She wanted to terminate, and I told her absolutely not, and how I'd break up with her and kick her out of our apartment as my name is on the lease as well as me paying most of the bills. That right there is the reason why he is a single dad, not might be a single dad, because he threatened her and she went along with it. She took the pregnancy to term and she kept the baby because he threatened her. He said it right there. I hate it when people don't give page breaks or paragraphs, but still. All right. To give more backstory, we met at a restaurant where she was a server there. It's been 2 weeks since our daughter was born. During the delivery, she was screaming about how she wanted the baby to come out already, which honestly seemed reasonable because I hear how painful birth can be. He just hears about that. Okay. After the birth of our daughter, she absolutely refused to hold her in the hospital. She didn't touch our daughter unless it was to feed or change her. She and our baby had to stay in the hospital for a few days before being discharged. After that, she still refused to hold her unless it was necessary, like feeding, changing, or putting her to bed. Otherwise, she'd give her to me and tell me to take care of our daughter's crying. I don't know what got into her, and she's acting different. She used to be bubbly and full of life, and now she's acting so distant and moody, so I started going through her phone to give me some type of reason why. I looked through her search history and saw that she was looking up apartments in a different state, so I assumed she wanted us to move. I didn't think much of it as her childhood friend Anna lives at that area as well as her parents. Now here's the current situation. I woke up the other day to find the house nearly empty. Only things that were here was my stuff, the baby stuff, and our daughter. Everything of Rebecca's was gone. Her car was gone. Even all of her essentials were gone. I tried calling her multiple times and it went straight to voicemail. I looked around and picked up our daughter when I noticed something taped to her crib. It was a note she left from me. If you're reading this, my name, I'm gone. I moved back to my home city. I'll be staying with my parents until I'm approved for this apartment. I told you I didn't want a kid and you threatened to kick me out. So I gave you what you wanted. There's formula in the cabinet. I hope you and your daughter live a good life without me, as I want nothing to do with her. This is too much for me, as I wouldn't be the mother she needed. I'm willing to sign away my rights completely as long as I don't have to be involved at all. I hope you see this as an act of kindness, as I don't think I would be good for her. I will still love you, but we're done and that's for the best. I still cry while reading this. There's nothing else I wanted but our family to stay together, but now she's abandoning us. I'll have to ask my parents to watch her while I'm at work, and I'll have to take time off, but I can't afford that. Is there any advice I can get? Any chance to possibly bring her home? I think there's something seriously wrong with her. Maybe postpartum depression that's making her act irrational. What can I do to fix this? I think my daughter has sensed her mother is gone and she's crying a lot more and is sometimes refusing her bottle. She was breastfed to give context. I just need help and advice on what to do. Do I report her missing? So he forced her to have a baby by saying that he would kick her out and break up with her. So she said, okay, bet. You want us to have this baby. You are going to force me. And then we come here where she used to be bubbly and full of life. Now she's acting different. It's just weird. I did threaten to break up with her and kick her out of her home because I was going to financially abuse her, and I could get away with it because I'm the one that pays the bills. But I don't even know what happened and it's just too much. Why would she do this? And here he's like, something is seriously wrong with her, maybe postpartum depression. And he doesn't even acknowledge that maybe he was the problem. These people are a problem, and this is the reason why the birth rate does need to plummet to hell. But this is the way to go if they are forcing you to have a child. Like if you live in one of these states where you don't have options, your best option is to just bide your time and give the man the baby. I know that some people will balk at that, but you're not going to force anybody to be a good mother. You can make someone carry a baby to term, but you're not going to make someone be a parent. You can't make someone love and support a child simply because they had one. So people need to get this through their brain that forcing someone to have a child is a terrible idea. And like I said, I acknowledge at the very beginning that this could very well be fake, but don't act like this scenario does not happen, especially with these traditional people, these theo bros, these extra religious people. This could very well happen where somebody threatens a woman and forces them to have a child. So that's the reason why I decided to do this, because I do believe that if a man forces your hand, that they should be parenting, and more of these people need to know and understand how much goes into being a parent, how much time, energy, and resources and sleep deprivation and holding the baby and blah, all that they need to see, and they need to see at the very beginning with the newborn stage. Now let's get into his edits. In his edits, he's addressing the comments. So I might not get to the comments because he's addressing them. Edit. So unfortunately, people think I am a rage bait account. I apologize if you think that way, but no, this is a genuine situation that I'm in, and I ask for advice as I don't know what to do to answer some questions. Did you coerce her into getting pregnant? No, I did not, at least in my eyes. I gave her a choice of us breaking up because clearly if she was going to abort our daughter, then we don't need to be together. Did she want to break up? To my knowledge, before she left, no. Why would she not want to stay together if she didn't murder our daughter in the womb? It makes no sense. If she didn't want to be with me, she would have left and terminated. Let's actually use our brains, please. He's getting a little feisty right there. Okay. Why would you report her missing? I thought of it as an option as she wasn't responding to any of my calls or texts, and leaving out of the blue isn't like her. As I said, I believe she's having postpartum depression. Why did you go through her phone? Because I was concerned if anything was wrong with her. I wouldn't go through her phone because I don't trust her. Even then, we used to regularly go through each other's phones out of habit. I don't mean that in a toxic way. I mean like photos and random texts with parents or seeing what we've added to our wish list type of looking. We trusted each other like that. We didn't care about the other one going through our phone, as it wasn't as a breach of trust, if you get what I mean. Are you able to take care of your daughter? Yes, but it will take a babysitter while I work. I'll have to explain to my boss that I'll need to transfer to home-based work in the meantime. So it sounds like he's going to have to be a dad because he wanted to be a parent. She did not want to be a parent. So like I said, this is a pro-life subreddit. So we have your fave lib. We have a pro-life liberal. Very interesting to me to be a pro-life liberal, but okay. She says she kept the baby because she was dependent on you financially, not because she wanted to date you. She probably has been planning this from the moment you threatened her. Look, I'm very glad that the baby is alive. That's good. But she didn't want the baby. She backed off once her finances were on the line. So why is this a huge shock? Don't report her missing. That's ridiculous. I doubt this is postpartum depression. This all sounds like she's been planning it for months. Save up money, give you the baby, and leave. She also probably feels very hurt over the threats. Here's the OP saying, both of us come from successful backgrounds. She wasn't dependent on me financially. I just paid most of the bills at my apartment. That gave her way more shopping money. She'd only pay for groceries and sometimes utilities. If she wanted to leave before, she had the money to off the bat. As you can see by his response, he has no culpability in his brain and why she just up and left like this. He's still searching for the answer, even though it's right in his own brain because it was his mouth that made her run off. Anyways, your fave lib says apartments usually require a deposit, and there may not have been openings in places she can afford. Getting kicked out suddenly, even if you have some money, is pretty serious. I'm not saying you don't have a right to kick someone out, but like, it's going to seriously negatively affect her opinion of you. It's also possible her view of you has been shifting more slowly over the course of the pregnancy. More resentment, more stress over being a mother, and deciding she's done with it. She may care for you enough to not want to hurt you by aborting, but that doesn't mean she wants to continue to be with you after this. It just doesn't sound like postpartum depression. And then she continues, for what it's worth, I am sorry. It's a lot to deal with, becoming a single parent. I just kind of get the vibe. You're just in a lot of denial right now. Just do your best. It's a lot of work. Let's go through a few more comments. We have Dawn of the Man. He is a pro-life Republican. He says, you're going to have to buckle up and figure it out, my friend. If you love your child, do whatever you can to get yourself ready because it's not going to happen for you. I'm so glad you were able to welcome your baby into the world. While I don't blame you for the ultimatum, this is the bed you made. I made a similar one. That said, you have to be very aware of the possibility that you're going to do this alone. Make peace with it. If she's gone for too long, then get the custody part sorted out, especially if she won't get help for the postnatal issues she's having. I wish the best for all parties involved. Congrats. You've got this, Dad. This person in the middle, whose name I don't understand, is some kind of nerd saying she doesn't want the child and doesn't want to be a mother. While I oppose termination, you can't really expect her to still want to be with you when you gave her no choice but to birth a child she didn't want. You have your daughter well and alive. Don't try to force her back to a mother that doesn't want her. And then at the very bottom, this person named Gus, who is a pro-life Brazilian, just says, I'm glad your daughter is well. And that's all you can really say to these people. You wanted a child, you have a child, now deal with the child that you helped create. She did not want a child. These people better get their lives together. And these dads that think that they can threaten in any kind of way or shape or form need to be responsible for the kids that they create. I don't know the way that this baby was made. Was it coercive sex? I don't know. But regardless, the outcome is a baby that he wanted and now he gets to care for. Y'all chime in. Let me know what you think. I think that this is a subreddit that I need to lurk in a little bit more. Thank you to the person that sent this to me. Y'all join the conversation and don't forget to like, comment. I was tagged in this post in the Traumatize Them Back subreddit. I'm thankful that she tagged me. Yesterday, we talked about the musty meat stick. Today, we're talking about the putrid peen. So she says, he'll never touch me without showering again. He'll never touch me without showering again. So this is just your trigger warning that yes, she is talking about a putrid peen that he wants to insert into her body in one way or another. So that is your trigger warning. She says, not safe for work. I'll try to be as PG as possible, so you'll have to read between the lines. My boyfriend and I have been together about 6 months. Life in the bedroom was great until he got comfortable asking to be intimate without showering first. You know what? Drop a Snickers bar on the floor in the bathroom and then give it to him. That is what you have to do. You have to, with these men who don't want to wash up, you have got to feed them you have to feed them stuff that has a little bit of pee on it. You got to feed them stuff with forks that are a little crusted over. You have to drop their food on the floor in front of them. Pick it up and put it back on their plate. They want you to put things in your mouth that is flavored with pee. They need to eat stuff that is flavored with pee. That's all I got to say. That's what I'm saying up front right now before I really get into this. I am tired of this. Make them eat pee flavored stuff. Okay, let's get back to it. All right, so he asked them to be intimate without showering. She says, at first it was just in the morning, no biggie. I know how to dodge morning breath. Then he started asking for it after work or after a lazy Sunday, even though he didn't shower on Saturday. Eventually, it got to a point where I could smell his tool from a foot away. I finally spoke up and told him that not showering beforehand is not only a health concern, but is also downright offensive, especially when we're doing things that require my nose to get really close to it. He pretty much blew me off, which resulted in me refusing him for a week straight. I finally got so frustrated, I have needs too, that when he asked one late night after work, I agreed. He undressed, and then I started giving him a nice long massage. I mean, really got my hands all over it. And then right before we were supposed to move on to the official act, I told him he had a dog hair on his face and proceeded to completely and utterly smear my smelly hands all over his mustache. I mean, really got in there. And every time he jerked his head back, I'd insist the hair was still there and dive back in. I finally stopped when he scrunched up his nose, suggested he finally understood exactly why I didn't want to go near that thing for a week. I pretended like I wanted to continue, but he quickly tossed me to the side, ran to the bathroom, and hopped in the shower. Yesterday, he showered twice. Don't expect intimacy if you're too lazy to wash your balls. She's like, I'm going to get in there, and then I'm going to pull it up. Put on, you know. Oh. We needed this story today. These people really think that you want to put this wand of sadness, this musty meat stick, this putrid peen in your body. I just cannot imagine, like, you drop a piece of candy in the bathroom floor, are you about to eat it? Like someone said in one of the comments, if there is some candy on the ground, a nice spaghetti plate on the ground. I don't know why I said spaghetti plate, because why would there be a spaghetti plate? But you just don't know. Are you going to pick it up and start eating it? Absolutely not. Why would you want a pee covered thing in your body in any of the places where it goes? Why would you want that? Why would you? And then the men that do this, do you want her kissing you with a pee covered mouth? I loved everything about this story. It made me laugh. I hope it made you laugh. Let's look at some of the comments. Peekaboo Pakeep says, well played. Dreamy Girly says he definitely got the message loud and clear. Gifted Garden Snail says massage. Peekaboo Bakeep says massaged into your nostrils. And then the OP says, oh, I definitely made sure I got in the nostrils. Green Crush says, I hope to God this is real. I couldn't be with someone where you have to trick them into smelling their own balls. And then she says, it's real, unfortunately. Honking Intensify says, it isn't. OP admitted it isn't in another comment. And then they scratched through that right there. But then they said, but yeah, you think by 2025, people would be washing their stuff. Edit, never mind. OP clarified that she did indeed gooch grime this guy, LOL. The OP says, never thought I'd find myself defending the fact that my boyfriend doesn't wash his balls. Crazy world we live in. Yes, this is absolutely maddening that we have to. And you know what? There is a hygiene subreddit. There's people all over social media, folks talking about how they don't wash their bodies but 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm just like, and then some people will be like, I do wash my face and change my underwear. And I'm like, that's just not enough. That's not enough. Wash your body. I do understand that you have to then, moisturize your face, you have to moisturize your body and all that. But stop walking around being musty. Stop walking around with pee laden underwear. Stop this. This is madness. Yes, let's just stop this. This is a perfect segue to this post in the TikTok cringe subreddit. It's just titled, She is Tired. You have this woman here. She's talking to this group of guys. I understand that this is probably staged. This one is absolutely probably staged. I get that and I acknowledge that. But she's like, why is it that none of y'all can pee in the toilet? The funniest part where she starts imitating, like, what are y'all doing? Are y'all just sprinkling it? Like, are you just taking it out and like whipping it around like that? This was hilarious. And like I said, this was probably staged. But the comments are hilarious because there are hundreds of comments of men trying to explain why they will not sit down to pee and the reason why the pee ends up outside of the toilet. And I need them to, okay, it gets outside the toilet. You don't want to sit down because sitting down is not masculine. Cool. But clean up yourself. Clean up after yourself. You pee, you miss. You don't just say, oh, I missed, and you walk away. This is one of the reasons why, ladies, you have got to stop living with these people. Make these men live with themselves. Make them live in their own piss. Make them live with their own musty balls. Make them live amongst other people like this, because you don't deserve for this. And even though this is probably fake, I don't care. This scenario is real. PP toilets is real. Musty balls is real. All of that is real. I wanted to get to some of the comments because the funniness was in the comments. So we got Easily Banned says, bruh, depending on the location, like work or something, I'll clean the seat myself even if I didn't get pee on it, just so the next person doesn't think it was me. Navy Dragon says, at my old job, I had to stop using the bathroom while I was there. Everyone kept pissing everywhere. I couldn't take it. I didn't even want to step in there because I knew I would be tracking it everywhere, and I went throughout the day, then back home. Born Slippy says, bro, we had a toilet on work or maybe at work where you could see handprints of poop on almost everything, walls, doors, and doors, etc. Yes, I did quit. Ew, gross. And then you have Magar. Someone suggested, why don't the men just sit down? And then Magar says, nope, it's the kink in the pipe. You sit down, you're facing out away from the bowl. You pee, you shake, you dab with paper. Then you stand up, pull your pants up, and pee a little in your pants. The kink unkinks as you stand up. You release that little reservoir of pee. Yes, he made a whole essay. It's easier to stand and aim. However, there are blind spots. I don't know how it is for uncircumcised guys, but as a hog hoodie haver, the lower seam on the underside of the glands can act as a randomizer. You can't see where it's sending droplets. The other tactic is to pull the foreskin forward. Okay, you see, let me move on just a little bit. You see, there's still more of this essay. Regardless, if we see the pee on the seat, most of us wipe it down. However, we are men, and there is such a thing as male pattern blindness. Yes, he said that. Also known as doing a man look. It's the same condition that allows us to look in a cupboard and not be able to spot the mustard because it's been moved 4 spaces to the left. Only this time it's splashes of pee. We looked, we wiped, we honestly didn't notice the stealth piss. There is also a final quirk of the sit-down wee that women don't have to deal with. The penis can be below the seat, but pointed between the seat and the porcelain. Now, if you get a full stream through the gap, okay, I'm not reading all this, but at the bottom it says, it is considerably more complex an issue than many women give credit for. So, like I said, he wrote a whole essay on peeing. I want you to also know that this man was being serious because this man named Nice Guy Eddie comes in and hones in on it is considerably more complex an issue than many women give credit for. And then he says, as a bloke, it really isn't. Clean up after yourself. It's that simple. And then Magar said, yes, The more the girls will love you if you validate them more, even if they were lambasting all men not an hour ago. Though next time you might want to pay closer attention because cleaning up after oneself is included in what I wrote. And then nice guy Eddie hones in on, yes, more the girls will love you if you validate them more, even if they were lambasting all men an hour ago, saying, LOL, what in the world is this nonsense? He says, what girls? How is cleaning up after yourself validating women and not simply being an adult man? Which girls were lambasting all men? And then he hones in on, next time you might want to pay closer attention because cleaning up after oneself is included in what I wrote. And then he says, but then you waffled on for paragraphs trying to explain how it's not that simple and not that easy, which it absolutely is. So next time you might want to pay closer attentions, and then he put attentions in quotes because LOL, it does have an S and it shouldn't, to your own words because it's simple to clean up after yourself. No excuses of stealth piss or any such BS changes that fact. Exactly. Stop trying to explain the P and just clean up the P. Y'all really did have to see this P argument because it was hysterical to me. So Magar hones in on LOL, what in the world is this nonsense? Saying, try that again with feeling. And then he hones in, but then you waffled on for paragraphs trying to explain how it's not that simple and not that easy. He says, paragraphs shouldn't scare you. A detailed examination of a thing is not a rejection of it. Maybe you shouldn't tackle more than a single sentence if they perturb you so. And then nice guy Eddie hones in on try that again with feeling. He says, yet more nonsense, LOL. How about you try that again and make it make sense? And then he hones in on paragraph shouldn't scare you and says they don't. Not sure where you got that idea, but it's hardly surprising you have trouble with basic comprehension. And then he says a detailed examination of the thing, saying, LOL, that's hilarious that you think that's what you were doing. I thought that this was fascinating, that Magar really, really went in with the examination of peeing. Y'all needed to see this. That's the reason why I said, even though I am totally sure that that video was staged, the comments were not. And there were hundreds of comments, hundreds of them. And I'm not going to go into all of them, but y'all needed to see this back and forth about a man peeing and another man saying, dude, just clean up.
I can't understand. Why is it so hard to put pee in a toilet? Y'all love target practice. Putting a ball in a hoop has got to be harder. What are you doing? Are you like making a sandwich? Are you answering texts? Are you putting your hair up? This makes no sense to me. Are you doing like Tune in Tokyo? What's happening? If this is about like multitasking, could we lock in? Could we just focus? It's everywhere. It's on the side of the toilet. It's in front of it. It's behind the toilet. It is behind the... What is the problem?
Okay, here's the deal. So, you don't know how fast it's gonna come out. I think it's like PCI. Sometimes it comes out wonky.
No, it's RPMs. It's miles per hour.
Okay, well,
We're not in chemistry.
PSA.
Physics. Learn about how to feel.
Cylinder.
Now, just as Aibileen said to Hilly at the end of the help, ain't y'all tired? Why do you all lay awake at night trying to figure out what we're doing when we don't give a damn about what you're doing? On today's episode of What the Blacks Are Doing, you're concerned about Representative Jasmine Crockett and what she has spent her 75,000 American doll hairs on, which she reported as she was supposed to because she's doing what? Following the law. Something a 34 count felon and those that support him know nothing about. We don't give a damn about what she spent her money on. Do you see this man right here? And this man right here, they are part of my security because of the work that I do and the foolishness that comes out of many of your mouths. Okay. Okay? You want to walk around talking about guns like we ain't got none. What you think, we sold them all because we stay well off? Neither one of them have a problem with putting you in the ground. You want to then add dog whistles when it comes to black women, talking about lashes and nails and hair. Meanwhile, every time we walk into a salon, we are the minority in there. You're getting lash extensions. You're getting hair extensions. You're getting lip fillers to look like ours. So please miss me on that. When I walk onto a plane, I'm sitting in first class because I paid for it. If I want to stay at a 4 or 5-star hotel, I can do that. You can stay at the Red Roof Inn and get bed bugs if you want to, Betsy, but it has nothing to do with me. You all only have a problem when you see black women succeeding, because you know all of that hatred, all of that racism, all of that bigotry has gotten you nowhere. Okay, and we are still excelling, even in spite of the oppression that you all give. You all need to get on somebody's couch and heal.